Okay, kids, we're live. It's the Mindstate Marketing Hour, and today we've got an exciting guest. Will, how are you today?
Hey, I'm doing really good today, Steve. It's been a good week. Tomorrow is Good Friday out there, so we're going to take the day off. I'm going to actually give my employees a day off, if you believe it. We're going to do it. I'm not going to call them in. Yeah, it's a good week. How are you?
I'm doing well. Rolling the intro here. So it's the Mindstate Marketing Hour with Will Leach. He's our favorite scientist who doesn't wear a lab coat. He wears a leather jacket. And today we're having an excellent conversation with Beant Singh from Wahi Digital Marketing and others. Beant, welcome to the Mindstate Marketing Hour.
Thank you, Steve. Thanks for Will. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well, we're excited to have a new victim on the show today. And we're going to talk marketing. We're going to talk. By the way, Will, I didn't know this, but I just learned that Beant is also a story brand associated person. He's a certified guide.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. We talk a lot about story brand because there's so much behavioral science and story brand that's underlying all those things. So any story brand agency out there is actually a behavioral scientist. They may not know it, but they're doing behavioral science. So it fits perfectly in what we talk about here.
Matter of fact, when I started listening to Donald Miller, reading his books, that's what sort of led me into launching Wahi Digital Marketing. It's all because of story brand.
Yep.
Well, perfect. So today, for those that don't know Beant, you should, because Beant owns a local marketing agency, Wahi Digital Marketing. He's also a glutton for punishment. He owns 8 restaurants, and he operates a successful white label support company called Extendly. Beant, what's wrong with you?
Just living the dream, trying to be successful as an entrepreneur.
Okay, so you're in the San Francisco area, is that correct?
Yes, sir. California.
And so where did the restaurant seems kind of, I was studying your background. Where in the world, why would you go and get restaurants on top of all the other things that you've been doing?
So, I got my start with my security company, which we still operate here in Fremont, California. And as I got into it, life changed a little bit, and then got this opportunity into restaurants, failed in the restaurant business, got into a marketing company as well. And I'm 19, 20 years old at this time, and failed into the marketing company also. I thought I could succeed in those businesses because at 16, I got to start my security company. And got a taste a little bit of success. And well, I didn't know business much. I thought I did, but I didn't. So quickly failed in those, hit rock bottom. And then, I've always had this urge. So I went back and, just picked up on my security company and succeeded with that because that's what I really knew how to do well with. So always had the surge of, I failed in those businesses. I gotta get back into them now that I know better. So I was able to, and I'm happy to say that we're succeeding in them now.
Nice.
So have learned a lesson or two from those mistakes I made.
And I love, we talk a lot about mistakes because I think so many times people are afraid to talk about their mistakes. Especially openly. Like I remember when I first started my company, I kept wanting to find failures, if you will, because you don't want to make the same mistakes others make. But there's not many books out there. There weren't many blogs out there. There weren't many people talking about it. Everyone talks about how I finally made it, and now they have the great car and everything else. And I remember thinking that I'm going to do something different. So a couple of years ago, I went on stage and I actually talked about a failure of launching my book. And so I'm a behavioral science expert who understands how to use psychology to, influence demand for things. And I failed on my book, right? And what it was great is I got on stage and I said, how to use Mindstate Marketing to sell a book about Mindstate Marketing. And a part of it was about how I failed in one aspect of it. And I remember so many people came on stage, or not on stage, sorry, that would have been really weird, afterwards and said like, that was so cool, so refreshing that you told us like a failure, because nobody gets on stage, nobody gets on platforms like this and talks about failures. So help me understand the failures. Was it just naivety? Was it a pivotal moment where you made a mistake with a different partner? Like, what was it about that any failure that you've had, especially in the early years? I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally think the reason I'm successful today is because of my failures. If I had just gone on and had succeeded with a couple of other businesses, I would have definitely failed down the road, which would have been a harder hit. So it was good to now I say it was good to see that I failed early on, learned from those lessons. Now it allows me to be much more humble and use that experience from failing, leading into making appropriate decisions. Back then, being young, not knowing business as much, and just learning things, I made a lot of mistakes, a lot of aggressive mistakes that I should have actually, thought through and say, okay, are these numbers going to make sense? Are we going to be profitable at the end of the month or not? Right? Are these expenses necessary or not? So, making sure you're not just overspending yourself in a business in hopes that it's going to make a return. That's extremely important. So the decision making is what the key was, and there was several little decisions that I made that led into a landslide.
So did you get this desire to be a business owner or to run a business from your father or your mother or your grandfather or some inspiration?
Yeah. So my father was a serial entrepreneur as well. He owned multiple businesses. He unfortunately passed away at the age of 46 in a car crash. But that's where I wish I had a lot more time to spend with him. But that's where I got my inspiration from. I still look up to him, and I think he was an amazing business owner.
Yeah. What's the hardest thing to run? A digital agency, a white label company, a security company, or a restaurant?
I think they all have their challenges. You can't say there's one business that's easier than the other or one business that's harder than the other. It's how you apply and what you want out of that business. The one I enjoy the most these days is the white label support company. That's where I get to spend a lot of my time. I've been lucky enough to learn how to automate businesses. So I've gotten out of the day-to-day activities of Ovis, which is my security company. And I'm not in the day-to-day activities of all of our restaurants. But there are regular meetings there with the staff, management, to make sure the operations are well. That's where you really learn how to even operate a business. The reason I like to spend more time in my white label support company is it's working with other entrepreneurs, marketing agencies, and that's been my goal from the get-go. When I failed, I said I want to help other business owners that are on this journey and wanting to be successful, help them get somewhere, hopefully without failures, and perhaps learn from the mistakes others have made so they can avoid the failures.
Hey, Ben, how old are you?
I'm 36 right now.
All right. So I got a question for you. So, you've been an entrepreneur for more than half of your life. You started at 16, right? So you've been doing it longer than me as an entrepreneur. I'm much older than you. And you've been doing it for a lot longer than lots of people that are probably listening on this. So let me get your opinion on something. What's your answer to this? Or what's your opinion on do you believe it's better to start becoming an entrepreneur earlier on in life? So, there's maybe you can make the argument there's less risk. You don't have a whole family. You see things more innovatively because you don't have life's kind of struggles, hurting you. Or is it, in your opinion, maybe better to hold off becoming an entrepreneur because then you have more wisdom? You may have worked with an organization, you understand the clients better because you've worked in a big company. What's your opinion on that?
Yeah. So, from my personal life experiences, I'd say early on is definitely better because you have that leisure of time. You have that leisure of not enough responsibility and just having to worry about just yourself, right? No one else. So, and plus, so I dropped out of college early on, just because I didn't think learning about geography, history, and whatnot was going to help me in doing what I'm doing today. Instead, the actual experience, I never stopped learning. I read a lot of books and learn from, watch other successful people. So learning is definitely a key, not necessarily through college, but the more you learn into whatever you're doing, you will lead into finding success. Failure is absolutely important part of that success, whether it's in a big scale or a small scale. You have to learn from the mistakes. I mean, even today, we make a bunch of mistakes in our day-to-day businesses. In all four of my companies, I can't say every single day is a huge success. There's days full of mistakes and failures, and we learn from them so we can improve and do better. So with that being said, well, I think in my personal opinion, and just because of my experience, starting early on is definitely better. It gives you better chances versus when you're a bit older, you've got more responsibility. Maybe you're married and got kids, right? And now, yes, you have a lot more wisdom, but you may be more afraid as well from taking risks. And taking risks is a huge part of becoming a successful entrepreneur.
Wow. One of our listeners has a great question here, Bill Collier. He's, what have you learned from your past experience that has prepped you for the upcoming uncertain economy?
Yeah, so you can never really guesstimate or guess into what the world is going to look like. So we sort of dabble with this on a day-to-day basis. What should we do? Should we continue to invest in more businesses, or should we hold back, hold on to the cash in case things don't go right? So the strategy we're choosing to go with is the economic times will always be uncertain, whether you're in good economy or bad economy. But in my personal opinion, when there is a bit of a downturn, that's a good time to grow a business. So in our case, we're finding more restaurant spaces to increase our restaurant units. We're able to find lower leases, cheaper leases with landlords. And as well as we're able to get into a building for a lot less cost than we would be able to otherwise. So depending on what you're doing, I think it's important to take a step back and see how that economy is going to affect you and whether you have the tolerance to take that risk or not. Anytime you go into business, even now we're thinking about, okay, we're getting ready to acquire 2 additional locations. And so that'll be 9th and 10th. And we're thinking about, are we prepared to not net anything for a whole year out of this operation? Right? If we can afford that, then it's good. Let's go in it. If we're not, then it's a bad move. Don't do it.
Wow. I think sometimes part of being a successful business is just being able to survive. Everybody worries about their competition, but I think really what the focus should be is on just making it through this next thing. They're having to deal with the same thing you are.
Absolutely.
And then sort of focus on your own game and invest in your own business, which you have the most control over, is where your focus should be.
Absolutely. That's absolutely right. One of the things businesses do during some sort of a downturn is cut out on their marketing as the first thing. That's the first expense that goes out, right? Because they feel that's not needed. Well, that's actually when you should be doubling down on your marketing, because other businesses are cutting out on marketing. So, for example, let's take like Google Ads as an example, right? There's a local dentist that we work with. During COVID, we did a lot of Google Ads for them, and they found so much success at a lower cost. Conversions were at a lower cost, and versus after COVID, a bunch of other dentists also came in, started advertising as well. Now the cost has gone high, leads are not as quality as they would be. So at that time, less people were advertising. So because less people are advertising, you're the only one that's standing out. So more business will probably go to you.
Yeah, let me build on that. There's really famous case studies. And I know Procter & Gamble is the first one. There's another major manufacturer out there. And during COVID, they went in and everyone pulled back. The first thing you did was like, hey, nobody's gonna be able to shop, literally. So pull back on advertising. Procter & Gamble was one of the major companies that said, nope, we're going to increase spend on advertising. Everyone thought they were crazy. Like, why would you spend marketing driving demand when people don't even know how to, like, online shopping for grocery stores was really very few people here, at least in most of America, were you doing it. They grew so much share because of exactly what you just said. And so now it's the textbook. Now, I don't know. It takes a lot of guts to do that. No doubt about it. It takes a lot of guts, but they grew so much share because they had so much more voice, right? They had so much voice in the marketplace that they just blew up because of that. And there's another major company that did the same thing. So it's almost like statistical validity, I guess, in that you should keep spending money. Now says the people who run marketing agencies, right? But right, we want you to. But the fact of the matter is that that's when you grow share, and people remember that during those times there was only a few voices out there, and that voice was this dentist, that voice was Pledge, that voice was whoever. And so, guys, if you're out there listening and you're thinking to yourself, I need to pull back, I'm just going to tell you, it's not easy and scary, but the data would suggest at every level of a company to try to spend money on marketing, because that's when people need to hear you most. And it's the cheapest way to do it, in fact, because so many people aren't marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. And you may need to pivot slightly depending on the economic downturn, the type of maybe the way COVID was, but I think you definitely continue with marketing.
Will, you talked about a little bit about your stuff about how you needed to tweak the messaging to the way that people were approaching uncertain economic times. What would your advice be for folks that are seeing these banks struggling? They're concerned about inflation. They're concerned about these things. What would you recommend?
Did you ask me, Steve?
Yeah.
So here's what we've done a lot of research in the space of when people are anxious, and there's a lot of anxiety in the marketplace right now, not just economic, but there's still social issues that we're, as a world, we're grappling with, political issues, there's wars, things like that. It's a bit unprecedented. I know we say those words as unprecedented, but really in the last 5 years, the amount of stress that people have is really truly unprecedented at a global level. Because of that, we see that there are three, and even to this day, there are three core motivations that are influencing almost all decisions. The first one is people's desire for safety, very Maslow, right? So in the banking world, for instance, like the banks they're using messaging around safety. We are not going to go under. We're not going to go under. Why are they doing that? It's because they need to make sure that people feel safe, or they're going to go take money out banking system. The next one is empowerment. People don't feel like they're in control of their lives anymore. So more and more freedoms are being taken away, or they don't have money, so they can't buy the things they used to buy, things like that. So they don't feel like they're necessarily in control. So control is another big element, or what we call empowerment motivation. And then the third one is we're constantly being hit with hits of dopamine throughout the day, right? Because of stress. And because of that, our decision-making is impacted. There's a whole bunch of science behind this. But what we're finding is that people are desiring moments of relaxation a lot more than they used to. Like, meaning I need to get away from everything. And what's happening in those moments of relaxation is not just doing yoga and breathing. Expensive liquors, expensive things that will calm down the senses and give a moment of release, which, especially if there's luxury behind that, those brands are going nuts right now. Any liquor company, liquor brand that's making money right now, they're making money not on the cheaper stuff. Do you think to yourself, bad economic times, Bud Light's going to run? No, it's not. The profit's coming from the high-end stuff, because people feel like if you can just give me 30 minutes in one day and I can have a really nice glass of wine, I can have a really nice cigar, I can listen to music that was, was totally different and foreign than they used to. That's what people are buying right now. So if I was you, I'd be doing safety, talking about control, and or relaxation in some way, if your brand fits in there.
Beant, I was wondering what your opinion would be of this. I see a lot of brands right now. Will mentioned Bud Light, and they're drawing a line in the sand, or they're advocating for some they're bringing in someone that is maybe offends.
Mhm.
They're bringing in someone to maybe promote some perspective, but then it offends the existing. I remember this study where this father got upset at Target because they were sending his daughter these advertisements about baby products. And the long story short is there's these companies can discern when a prospect is vulnerable to change uh, their loyalty to a product to another, and pregnancy is one of those. And her buying things were indicating that, and so those brands were going in there and fighting for this new loyal customer for years to come. And I see this happening now with all these other brands. They're making these statements. It's offending some of them. And so now these folks are risking and going out to choose. I just think of like a pizza brand like your company, is competing against Pizza Hut or whatever it may be. What a great opportunity to grab some of that audience and bond them to you for years to come. What would you say to something like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think in dealing with a business, an experience matters a lot from a customer point of view, and of course, behavior and behavioral targeting has a lot to do with it. I'm sure Will can speak a lot more on that than I can, but what I've understood is that how you make your customers feel when they do business with you, that speaks volume, right? If you're the type of company that is, whether it's pizza or marketing or security company or whatever else it may be, if you're the type of business that makes your customers feel really good about themselves, just like Will said, if I can have 30 minutes to enjoy this nice glass of wine, right, I'm willing to spend with you. And willing to spend more with you, right? So price becomes not a question at that point anymore. It's the experience, the how you made them feel that they enjoy. That becomes important.
One time I was in Boston and I went to the Sam Adams Brewery. It was close by, and I thought I'm going to go over there. And I noticed like a year later, I would order Sam Adams every time I was in a bar, or at a restaurant or something. And I just wondered, why did I just start ordering Sam Adams? And because I went over there and I kind of learned about how they do it, and I connected with maybe one of the guys that was working there, and I continued on with purchasing their products just out of that experience.
Yeah,
Happens every day. Well, Beant, hey, tell me a little bit more. We kind of glossed over a bit about the white label business that you have. Talk a little bit more about that. And I know it's helping agencies scale, but I'd love for you to talk a little bit more about that. And then what is the hardest challenge that agencies have as it relates to scaling?
Yeah, absolutely. So to give a little bit of background on that business, so our audience can understand, the white labeled support services that we provide are to this software called High Level. High Level is an amazing marketing automation tool that many marketing agencies and businesses are using. So High Level's pitch is that you get to white label our software. You as a marketing agency become the SaaS provider, the software as a service provider. Then go ahead and white label it to your name and sell it to your clients. So you don't have to deal with companies like ActiveCampaign, MailChimp, and all these bunch of other subscriptions you would get for your customer to be able to provide service to them. So we come into, as a software company, you have to have support services to provide that. If any legit software company has support services available. So we saw that opportunity in the High Level world and said, we're going to be that support company. We're going to white label the support for you, just like High Level white labels their platform for you. And we will be available 24/7 via live chat inside the software, so that when your customers have questions, how do I do this? How do I send the next campaign or this or that? we're going to be able to help and answer that for you. So that's what we do. And in doing that, we've built a sort of a pathway to get started with high level and sort of end on the other side, where now you can start earning yourself business and getting more customers for yourself. So that starts with educating you on high level, the platform, what it does, how to use it. We have a partner site called the Academy for High Level. And then setting you up with your website, landing pages, and the nurture sequences on all of that inside High Level. So you're able to present yourself as a software company and sell the product properly. Of course, the 24/7 live chat comes with it. We provide white label onboarding services. So agency owners that are just getting started, they don't have to go out and hire all these different individuals to put everything in place. We've sort of become the one-stop shop for them at a very affordable price point, so that they're not hiring, person A, person B, person C, and having to deal with their salaries, or spending a bunch of time trying to do it themselves. And of course, that time is money, so it's costing them a lot before they're even able to get out of the door.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Yeah. So this what a great segue. So this episode is sponsored by Growth Stack CRM. Business owners cobble together, they Frankenstein a system. They want a website, they need email marketing, they use MailChimp, they use these different tools, and they try to cobble together a Frankenstein system. Growth Stack CRM makes it so easy, and we can help you get set up in there using Extendly. Extendly is my support team, by the way. So they onboard them and they service them.
Hey, Beant, real quick. So I've always heard this, and this is true for me as well. The first hire you ever make is the hardest hire, because you're scared, because you're going to all of a sudden, you used to have all control, you have all the revenues coming in, and all of a sudden you're about to make that first hire. Now for you, I know that you're kind of saying, well, you don't have to make a hire, you could outsource it to me, but you, I'm sure, have had to have that first hire. What advice would you give an entrepreneur who's sitting there, they're a solopreneur right now? They know that they can only scale so much. Yeah, they could reach out to you, but there's going to be a point where they want to hire either, whether it's you or an employee. What advice would you give somebody to say, when is the right time to hire somebody, and what should they be looking for? That first hire, especially.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, bringing on team members is a mindset, because now you're letting go of control, and you're having to trust someone else with, what is your baby today, because you're the only one handling everything. So bringing on your very first hire, you are wanting to put a lot of trust in that person and hoping that they're going to treat it just like you have been treating it yourself. So which is what scares a lot of people. And some people actually even step away and say, you know what, I don't want to hire anyone. I am just going to do it myself, and I'll do it to whatever point I can, and that's it. I think people should definitely hire, because and put the trust in the person. Definitely vet the person, right? Put the trust in that person and train them appropriately so they can fulfill the needs that you need done, because that's the only way you get to scale. If you never hired someone, it's your time, and whatever time you're being able to put in is all your business is getting, is all what your clients are getting, and that's it. And you're limited to that. Well, when you bring in more people to help you, after the first one, it becomes easier to hire a second, a third, and a fourth, and a fifth. And as your business grows, now you find yourself that it's not a job for you anymore. You're actually able to step back, look at the bigger picture, and say, all right, these are the decisions we need to make as a business, as a company, to continue our growth. If all you're doing is just working inside your business every single day, then your mind is too full of your duties and tasks that you have to do. You don't even have time to think about how to grow. Right. So I think taking that first step forward to bring on that first hire is extremely important. But having training processes, and sometimes, most people are not going to have any sort of training processes, especially when it's the first hire. That's okay. Don't be afraid to build as you go. Show them what you do day to day, how you do it, train them as you go, because you have the leisure of time when it's you just by yourself. Now you're able to spend that time with them. You're not going to be able to do that with your 10th or 20th or 30th employee. You're going to be able to easily do that with your first few.
Let me ask you, think back to your days of, your marketing agency. At some point, you're probably a solopreneur, right? You're just trying to wing it and figure it out. Who would be your first hire in your situation? Who was your first hire? Was it an admin? Was it another creative? Was it a salesperson? Like who was that first hire for you?
Yeah. So for me, if we're talking about my marketing agency, it was a designer.
A designer. Okay.
Yeah. Because I believed in presenting really beautiful designs. And because something beautiful attracts us, and I'm sure there's behavior science related to that, but that's what attracts people. It also gains trust, right? So having a beautifully designed logo, having a beautifully designed website, of course, the content has to match as well, right? That's where StoryBrand comes in with Donald Miller. But having that beautiful design is important as well. So for me, it was a designer. For my security company, it was a technician at the time. So depending on the trade, it'll be a different person. But I've always sort of put myself towards, I need someone who can fulfill the tasks of our customers before I need someone on the admin side to assist me. So that's where I would go with that.
Oh, I love that. That's great advice. I love that. I've never heard that before. Yeah.
For me, it was I'm more the sales side of things. I can help envision strategy, that thing, but I needed someone to actually technically build out the digital assets, and that's what I needed. And so the way I would answer it, you need to pick someone that can cover the bases that you're not an expert in, that can complement you and where you can focus more and where you're strong.
Absolutely.
Hey, Bill's got a question here that I'd love for you guys to give me like a 3-sentence answer to this. So if feelings and experience are so important, then why do a majority of marketers still produce informational assets?
Who wants to go first?
Go
ahead.
Oh, me. Okay. Informational assets. So producing information is more importantly to engage your audiences, to let them know what the brand stands for, and educate them on the brand, which eventually will lead you into buying some sort of services from that brand.
Bill, let me tell you, here's what I think. I think it's because brands and people assume that people are motivated to buy from them. They just assume, like when I worked on Doritos, I know that you just want to buy Doritos. Well, in that case, there's snacks and they're full of yummy cheese. And so maybe in that case, there's inherent demand. For most companies, there is not an inherent demand for your company. For the benefits you provide, yes. So I think that because we live in this world that we think about ourselves so much as brands and as companies that we believe that just people need us. And that's not true. They don't know that they need you at all. And so the reason why we go in with information, and here's my specs, and here's my price, and here's how long I've been in, here's my history, it's because we believe that you already want to work with us. And that is not there's nothing in behavioral science that says that that's the case. I need to create an emotional connection before you will ever consider making a purchase. Now, that sometimes is inherent in the brand you have and in the design, right? Beyond it could be the design, something about that brand I want to learn more about, but the majority of the time, there's no emotional there. And people are talking about the services they provide. They're talking about the information specs, things like that. And then that's why. So I think if every business owner out there, and you know this as a sales guy, that if you are thinking about your customer first, and you're not thinking about yourself, you think about your customer, you've got to think through all those emotions first Before then, they'll make that decision, that non-conscious decision to want to engage with you. Now, here's all the 5 reasons why you should. Here's my history. Here's my prices. Here's what I do better than other people. That is the issue why people don't use emotions. They already think their customers are motivated to buy. They are not. You should always assume your customer is not motivated to buy, because behavioral science would suggest they're not.
And I would say that that's the time. Informational assets, utilizing story brand, utilizing Mindstate marketing, is the time to begin the experience of what your brand's like, what your authority is. That's your time to differentiate. They're lurking from a distance, hiding in the forest, just peeking into the camp, but they're wanting to learn what you offer and if it's dangerous or if it's safe. So that's why they still do that. Beant, I'm gonna put you on the spot. What's a good question from your experience running an agency, running a business? You've been challenged by a customer. Hey, I need help with my marketing message. That's why you signed up for StoryBrand, right? But I'm curious what you would ask Will, knowing where he's coming from with this science and stuff.
All right, I've got a good question for you, Will. So with you being an expert in behavior, how much of behavior really matters in marketing?
The actual behavior or the reasoning behind the behavior?
Well, both.
Okay. I think the behavior is all of marketing. I come from the world that if I'm held accountable for top line revenue growth, that's the world. PepsiCo was like that, right? So we were not providing marketing, we weren't providing insights, we were providing top line revenue growth. So if I can't show that my contribution is leading to a sale, I had no job. So first off, on the behavior side, it's everything. If you're marketing because you think you want to build brand awareness, things like that, you're not a real marketer. You are an artist, you're lots of other great things, but you're not a marketer. Now, how important is it to understand the behavioral science behind getting that? Of course, as I would say, because I would say it's everything too, right? Only reason why I think good artists, I think good marketers, good people out there, creative people, they probably intuitively understand how to connect with people. Like the best ones you ever have, you never want to leave, you'll pay them whatever money they have because you just know they have this intuition, but there's science behind that intuition. We talk about this on the show. And not everyone has that intuition. They want to be artistic. They want to be engaging. They don't have that really deep connection. So for those people that don't have that intuition, that like maybe God put them on the planet to be a creative person, right? A creative director, musician, whatever. Then you can build it through behavioral science. And that's absolutely me. Because I don't know the creative world at all, but I understand how the mind works in relation to creative. So in terms of understanding behavior, you better, because your job is to drive top line revenue growth for your clients, right? That's your job. And if you're not doing that, if you're not able to show revenues, then that's going to hurt you. And if you don't know why your creative's working, if you don't understand it's because, I'm tapping into an unmet goal, or I'm actually tapping into a core motivation that drives emotional engagement, things like that, you may get lucky. I totally get it. And so many people get lucky. But for you to do that again and again and again and again is really difficult because you're only going to be lucky so many times. Science will give you the odds in your favor a little bit better. Not all the way to 100%, not even close, but it'll put the odds in your favor.
Yeah, that's so good. That's so good. Glad you said it that way. You will get lucky once or twice, but if you want to make it a repetitive process, you have to know what you are doing right, what you're doing wrong, what is working, what is not. So that science element is extremely important.
Yeah, how it's happening right now is A/B testing. I know a lot of companies are doing that. And that's a great way of doing it. Like Amazon, we had a blunt conversation about them saying, we don't need your stuff. We don't need it because we get A/B or tests into and out of it. And I believe you can do that. I would suggest that you could spend a lot of time doing A/B testing until you figure out the right image, but you don't really know the why behind it. And so for the next campaign, you're going to A/B test your way. Next time, A/B test your way. Eventually, you're doing so much A/B testing, half your client's budget's going into A/B testing, where what if I said, rather than A/B test these 100 ideas, what if I could get you down to 30 just from using science, just from using behavioral psychology? And now we can kind of lower the number of iterations of A/B testing. So there is a way of doing all this stuff without understanding what you're doing. You A/B test your way out of it. And Amazon's okay to do that because they have billions of transactions they can do that with. Everyday person doesn't have that kind of money to A/B test. They may come up 3 options. What if all 3 options suck? Like they just could, but you're picking the best of the 3 because that's all you have the budget for. Why don't we focus on how to get those top 3 into something that is hopefully going to test even better, then A/B test your way into it. And I'm hoping that behavioral sciences allows more creative teams to understand that element of testing.
Right. You've got to know your avatar to be able to market to them. Yep.
Yeah, smaller brands can't afford that. I mean, for Amazon to say that, it's like, well, you've got millions of visits a day.
It was an awkward conversation. I mean, it was cool. I mean, they were nice. And actually, they weren't nice about it, to be honest with you. They weren't nice, but they're just like, we don't need you. I'm like, I understand. You don't. You don't need me. You don't need me at all.
But a small brand may have 20, 30, or 50 visits a day. To do proper A/B testing, it might take you a year on that sampling. So, or you could just read Marketing to Mind States. Okay. Right now, most brands are putting up a one-size-fits-all messaging. Well, if you went to TJ Maxx and all they had on there were T-shirts that were one size, would you continue to go, especially if it didn't fit you?
No, I wouldn't keep doing that. Of course not.
Well, that's what's happening if your message is one size fits all. The way to get past that and to find the exact fit for the folks that tee up in the state of mind when they're considering your solution is to read this book. It helped me change our marketing. We have clients from it now. And if you're an agency and you're wanting a competitive advantage, you need to read this book and you need to reach out to Will. Beant, tell us a little bit about why folks should consider connecting with you, whether it's with Wahi or with Extendly.
Well, I'm very passionate about helping businesses, helping business owners find success and avoid mistakes. So, that's what drives me. That's why I wake up every day excited to be at work. I don't find my job boring. So whatever the problems businesses are having, I'm happy to chat with and see how we can assist them.
Yeah. So just so you know, Beant also consults you with how maybe to tee up for a strategy. I'm going to be meeting with Beant here tomorrow. We're going to be talking over an opportunity and a strategy to take advantage of. And obviously that's going to pull in his team. But I highly recommend you reach out, connect with Beant. Beant, what's the best way to connect with you?
So, as a company, get Wahi.com for Wahi Digital Marketing or get Extendly.com if someone's looking into high level or in the high level world. Those are the best ways to reach out to us.
Will Leach, what's the best way to get in touch with you, brother? What would you do for me if I was to reach out to you and say, Will, can you look over my shoulder and look at my content? Tell me what I'm doing right or wrong.
First off, I would give anyone who does that a big hug because that's the kind of guy I am if you contacted me. But if you want to get a hold of me, go to mindstategroup.com. There are a series of buttons on that site that will allow me to or allow you to set up an appointment with me. And here's all we do. In these appointments, we just sit down for a half hour. We talk a little bit about your situation. If you want me to look at your creative, I can look at it through a behavioral psychology perspective. Just give you a couple of tweaks I think you can do right now today to get your advertising to hum along. And if you wanted to just actually learn more about Mindstate Marketing, there's also a Mindstate Marketing Masterclass that you have access to. You can learn more about that at mindstategroup.com, but it is a do-it-yourself platform and a learning platform for you to really bring science into your design work. So you can learn all about that at mindstategroup.com, and my hugs are for free. My hugs are for free.
Free hugs.
Free hugs. That's a bonus for that's my upsell bonus.
That's got to be in your stack.
I know. I said before, my wife is looking at me. I was like, "What are you doing?" Okay, maybe not. We'll see.
Beant, so you don't have a chili recipe, do you? Do you have your favorite chili recipe?
No, I don't. I just enjoy food, but I don't have a recipe by myself.
Nobody wants to give us their chili recipes, Steve. We ask the question each week, and nobody wants to give us their chili recipe. They always say things like that. We'll get one eventually. We're gonna get a chili recipe soon. I know we will.
What's the name of your restaurant, Beant?
I'm sorry. What was that?
What's the name of your pizza restaurants in San Francisco?
They're called Curry Pizza House. They're in the Bay Area. It's Indian fusion flavored craft pizzas. So there's of course, your traditional American pizzas are there as well, but there's a fusion flavor to them.
Awesome. So, all right. So one last thing, y'all all come to Vegas for some free drinks. Well, who wouldn't want to do that? Well, it's another great
Bill.
episode of the Mindstate Marketing Hour. Be sure to join us next week as we have another episode. The Mindstate, go to mindstategroup.com. Be sure to get Will's book. And we'll see you. I'm going to roll out this outro Kristen worked so hard on. I try to do this and not be awkward. Hey, we're a podcast. You can listen to us on all of the other podcast channels. And you can subscribe and listen. It's on YouTube as well. You can watch these if you like to watch, like Chauncey Gardner. Then you can watch on the Mindstate channel. Tell your friends, your neighbors, your parents, and we'll see you next week on the Mindstate Marketing Hour. And I'm hitting in the